After 3 disappointing seasons under Adam Gase, finally, Sam Darnold has escaped his wrath of incompetent coaching. But a mere head coach change wasn't enough. The New York Jets decided to completely hit the restart button, trading away Darnold to the Carolina Panthers. The Jets drafted Darnold 3rd overall in 2018 with the hopes of him being the savior in New York. But instead, he leaves his mark with the Jets by fetching 3 picks in a trade. This is a great move for the Panthers. Bringing in a guy like Darnold is low risk, high reward. Carolina loses a 2nd, 4th, and 6th round pick. If Darnold becomes its franchise quarterback, Carolina just hit the lottery. And if he doesn't pan out, the Panthers cut him loose after only giving up a few low-value picks. Carolina had to address quarterback this offseason. The Panthers don't seem sold on Teddy Bridgewater, and now they've closed that gap that ensures that they don't need to take a quarterback at this year's draft. For the Jets, the move does exactly what they need and what they want: a fresh start. They brought in Robert Saleh to be their next head coach and own the number 2 pick at the draft, which will likely turn into Zach Wilson. New York wants a fresh slate, and with having to make a contract decision on Darnold in the near future, it made sense to just give it up and move on now. The Jets simply wanted to press restart and get Darnold off the books, and they did just that. A few years back, the Arizona Cardinals decided to use the 1st overall pick on Kyler Murray 1 year after drafting Josh Rosen in the 1st round. They waited far too long to trade Rosen, and in return, they didn't get a good trade. Now, unlike Rosen, Darnold is getting put in a much better situation in Carolina with a team that it sounds like believes he can be the future. It's no secret that Adam Gase has been a mess. It's amazing that this dude has had a career off of the back of having success with Peyton Manning. We all know damn well that Peyton was his own offensive coordinator in Denver.
Get open. Get your head out of your ass. You suck.
Nobody has felt the Gase dysfunction quite like Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill was stuck in the Gase dumps for years before he finally escaped to the Tennessee Titans, where he's had a career resurgence. His play took a full 180 when he got under the guidance of a competent head coach. Now it's the question of whether or not Darnold can have a Tannehill-like turnaround. Real quick, if you're enjoying the content, please help us on our way to 100K by subscribing to the channel and hitting that bell notification so you never miss an upload. The Jets have so many problems that they have to address this offseason. For starters, in years past, they didn't even give Darnold a true roster to work with, and that doesn't help when your coach sucks too. Last year, the Jets' top wide receiver was Jamison Crowder, and their top running back was a 37-year-old Frank Gore. Patrick Mahomes would struggle with that kind of mess. In Carolina, Darnold gets an immediate upgrade at running back, joining with one of, if not the best back in the league, Christian McCaffrey. At receiver, Robbie Anderson is coming off of a monster season, and he already has that familiarity with Darnold during their time in New York. DJ Moore adds another good weapon on the Carolina offense. Additionally, the Panthers can now take the best overall player available at number 8 in the draft instead of having to play the quarterback game for the future. The biggest upgrade, though, comes at head coach, going from Adam Gase to Matt Rule. And his new coach has already put out his support for the 4th-year passer. Rule said,
we believe in Sam. We believe in his skill set. We believe in his approach. As you talk to people that know him, he's tough-minded, he's competitive.
I personally am a huge fan of Sam Darnold. He was my favorite quarterback in that 2018 NFL draft class, and I've kind of followed his career around, I guess, almost as a fan of him. I love his work ethic, I love the leader that he is on the football field, and overall, I think he has a really good skill set to make it as a pro passer in the NFL. But I don't think that he was put in the right position, or that they even had the tools around him in New York to make that possible. The Adam Gase dysfunction goes goes as far as you can believe, and I think Ryan Tannehill is the biggest testament to this. Ryan Tannehill is another guy that I always watched and was like, this guy is a very, very talented player, but the team around him, or more or less the coaching, is just disastrous. And we saw Tannehill being able to escape Gase. He goes over to Tennessee with Mike Rabel, and everything changed for him. Darnold showed a lot of promise at USC before coming into the league, and kind of showed off that he can be a pro passer if you put him in the right situation, and I still fully believe that. I think the main difference here is I remember watching Josh Rosen or Dwayne Haskins in their first year and just thinking, you know, this guy can't be a pro quarterback. I don't see any flashes. I don't see anything that makes me, you know, really scream out that this guy could be a future star like I did with Josh Allen, for example. Additionally, time is on Sam Darnold's side. For those who don't know, he's actually younger than Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow was the first overall pick in last year's draft, and he had a solid season before going down with an injury with the Bengals, but Sam Darnold already has 3 years of NFL experience. He's already gone through dysfunction coaching. Speaking of Joe Burrow, one of the biggest reasons for Joe Burrow's success at LSU before getting picked first overall was, more than anything, his offensive coordinator, Joe Brady. Now, not to take anything away from Joe Burrow, he worked incredibly hard to get where he is now, and he's an incredibly talented player, but I think a lot of what happened at LSU in his final year, that Heisman winning season, was the mind of Joe Brady. I think that's going to be the biggest thing here, and one of the biggest reasons why I do believe in Sam Darnold. This is a guy that I do fully believe in. It was just a matter of where he actually ends up in a trade. I think there are plenty of teams that he could have landed on where I wouldn't have felt very confident in his future, but Carolina, I think, is at the top of the list of teams that I think are a great fit. Matt Rule, you have a second-year head coach who wants to get his guy in there. Teddy Bridgewater just wasn't the answer, and I think everybody could tell that last year. Carolina goes 5-11, and that division, that NFC South division, is very, very tough. That being said, there's a window coming up in the next couple years where the NFC South should be wide open. The New Orleans Saints with Drew Brees, he just retired, and now they're trying to figure out their quarterback situation. For the Atlanta Falcons, they're kind of just a mess to begin with. Matt Ryan's a bit of an unknown. They still have Julio Jones. I think they're a really talented team on paper, but even they are looking for a quarterback of this year's draft potentially. As for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they obviously just won the Super Bowl, but Tom Brady's getting up there, and he's going to have to retire at some point. I think when all three of those dominoes fall, at least one of them already has with Drew Brees, I think it's the perfect time for Matt Rule and the Carolina Panthers to sweep in and win the NFC South. In my mind, this is kind of like Sam Darnold's first chance to succeed. I think he was put up to fail his entire tenure in New York, especially there at the end with, holy Darnold's played with Teddy Bridgewater before. Holy I think Darnold was set up to fail from the beginning in New York, and I think he's going to have a serious shot now in Carolina. Now, funny enough, this wouldn't be the first time that Sam Darnold has taken Teddy Bridgewater's job. If you remember, during Sam Darnold's rookie season, I was actually out working at Redskins training camp, and the New York Jets were the team that came in and practiced with him, and there were 3 key quarterbacks that the Jets had that year, and we're trying to figure out who was going to start. And that was Josh McCown, Teddy Bridgewater, and Sam Darnold. Bridgewater ended up getting traded away, and Sam Darnold ended up being the starter for the Jets. Holy shit. Based off of what I've seen just in film and watching these guys play, I do believe that Sam Darnold is more of a pure passer. I think he's overall a better player than Teddy Bridgewater, and while I think Teddy Bridgewater is a solid player, I think in the last year and even beyond that, I think he's really proven that he's gonna have to have a perfect situation to succeed as a starter, like perhaps what he had in New Orleans, but I think more than anything, he's starting to solidify himself as a backup NFL quarterback. And I believe that's the role that he will play this next season with Sam Darnold going to Carolina. All in all, I do love this move of the Carolina Panthers going out and trading for Sam Darnold. The New York Jets needed a fresh start, and I think overall this trade was a win-win. I don't think that either one of these teams lost this trade, and I think it's going to be hard to see who actually won it until we see A, how Sam Darnold turns out in Carolina, and B, what that second round pick ends up turning into. At the end of the day, I think Sam Darnold has a serious shot to have a Ryan Tannehill-like resurgence, and at the end of the day, we're going to be thinking exactly what we did with Ryan Tannehill. How on earth did Adam Gase get a head coaching job? Thanks for sticking to the end. Again, help us reach 100K by subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell notification so you never miss an upload. When we reach the milestone, we will be giving away an NFL jersey. To enter, all you need to do is make sure you're subscribed and have notifications on. Then follow us both on Instagram and post a screenshot of you subscribed on your story and tag us both.